Hello everyone, so this is the video for section 2.4, Algebraic Reasoning, and this whole video is just describing the properties of equality and congruence that we will be using in the rest of chapter 2 and geometry to justify statements. Okay, so there's a PDF saved in the weekly folder for this that goes through all of these properties and lists them, but it's highly recommended that you listen to this video because I'm going to explain these properties and it might help them make sense a little bit better when you go and practice this and identify these properties, okay? So continue to watch the vocab. There's tons of properties of equality that I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes and 3 properties of congruence that I'm going to talk about. So the vocab is a little bit more intense in this section. So let's get started. Why do we need these properties? So algebraic properties of equality and congruence, they are used everywhere in geometry to solve problems and justify reasoning in proofs. We will be proving in the next few sections of chapter 2, and in order to prove something, you need to be able to back up your statements. You know, you can't just say, a triangle has 3 sides. You have to explain and defend that statement with definitions and properties. So that's why we need to master these properties and know what they mean so that when we go and prove geometric statements in the next few sections, we are ready and we have the knowledge of these properties to use when we go prove statements in the next section. Okay, and so the following properties we will assume and accept as true. Okay, so let's get started here. The first property is the reflexive property. It basically just says that A equals A. A equals itself. It reflects back to itself. Okay, pretty self-explanatory there. The next one is the symmetric property. If A equals B, if one thing equals another different thing, then I can just flip it and say B equals A. Okay, the order doesn't matter when I have one thing equals another thing. Okay, vice versa, right? Doesn't matter. The transitive property is my favorite property. I don't know, it's just very satisfying to me the way it looks. So it says, if A equals B and B equals C, and we know B and B equal each other, then I can say A equals C. Okay? And that's what we can say. If A equals B and then B equals C, we can skip over those B's and say A equals C. That is called the transitive property. The next property is something we've done this a million times, right? We've substituted things before. Okay, we've used substitution. We just need to be able to say that, okay, I'm using substitution here. This is a substitution property. If A equals B, then we can put B and replace it with A in any expression. Okay, anywhere we have an A, I can replace it with B because if I say they equal each other, we can use substitution. The following next properties, they're basic. We know how to add, guys, right? We just need to know that there's a name for that. The addition property. If A equals B, then A plus C equals, I can substitute that B in for the A, B plus C. Okay, this is just showing, again, also that substitution property. If we're saying A equals B, if A plus C is true, then I'll substitute that B in for the A, and I can say it equals B plus C. Guess what? The same thing happens for subtraction, right? If A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C, all because of that substitution. What about some multiplication, right? If A equals B, then AC equals BC, right? A times C equals B times C. You assuming that A equals B. And same thing, very similar with division, okay? There's another step in here though. If A equals B, right, that's substitution, and we have to note that C does not equal 0. Remember, in a division problem, in a fraction, the denominator could never be 0, right? So we just have to note that and put it out there. A equals B, and C can be everything, but it cannot equal 0. Then A then A divided by C, right, we use the division property, equals B over C, B divided by C. And then lastly, something we've also done a million times, distribute, right, the distributive property. A times B plus C, I just distribute that A into the parenthesis equals AB plus AC. Okay, and same thing if it was subtraction. A times B minus C equals, I distribute the A times B minus A times C. Okay, so these are all, notice these have all equals, right? They're all equal signs, equality. So the next set of properties, there's just 3 in the next set. They're properties of congruence. That's like the biggest word that we've used and learned throughout geometry so far this year. Congruence, that's the symbol with the little squiggly line on top of the equal sign. Again, we know congruence is used to describe segments and angles that have the same angle measure or the same length. So now we're moving into more geometric objects instead of, numbers, A plus B. So the first, notice they're the same exact properties, reflexive, symmetric, transitive. We use those same properties for equality. Okay, now with congruence, the reflexive property, remember reflexive, it reflects back to itself. Segment AB is congruent to segment AB. Okay, same thing. Angle A is congruent to angle A. The symmetric property. The symmetric property says the order doesn't matter, right? If AB is congruent to CD, if segment AB is congruent to segment CD, then we can also say the other way around, segment CD is congruent to segment AB. The same thing works for angles, right? If angle A is congruent to angle B, then angle B is congruent to angle A. Symmetric. The order doesn't matter when we use that congruent symbol, and there's one thing on each side. The last one is the transitive property. Again, this is my favorite, okay? It says, we'll look at one at a time here. If if segment AB is congruent to segment CD, and then I know segment CD is congruent to segment EF, I can skip over that and I can say then segment AB must be congruent to segment EF. Okay, same thing with angles, guys. If angle A is congruent to angle B and angle B is congruent to angle C, then I can say angle A is congruent to angle C. Okay, I love that one. It's so nice. Alright, guys, so those are the properties. Print this out, write those down. It'd be way more helpful if you wrote them down versus printing them, but whatever works for you. And then now you're going to go and practice these. Identify these properties in the practice, okay? Good luck. You guys got this. Bring any questions to me soon.